So today is a special edition for the Fitila Podcast, and I'm here in BUK, Bayero University Kano. Behind me is a complex of the Dangote Business School, and I'm here to attend a workshop organized by the um, Center for Research in Nigerian Languages Translation and Folklore, BUK, and the workshop is themed promoting African futures through literary translation. And I will not just be listening to the panel conversation, the keynote speech. I would be talking to people who are participants. More importantly, I will talk to the keynote speaker, Professor Ida Hadjivayanis from SOAS, and she will be speaking to the audience on she is a translator. She translates Swahili content into English, and then we will learn from her lessons on how to promote that professionalism in translation in East Africa and how to well position Hausa translation in the global shape.
Hi, so I am Ida Hadjivayanis. I'm an academic from SOAS, University of London. I'm senior lecturer in Swahili Studies. I also chair the Center for African Studies at SOAS, University of London. Yeah.
What does translation personally mean to you?
I think for me, translation is a way for some indigenous languages to be heard and for indigenous languages to hear others. It's very much about communication, about speaking to each other, speaking about each other and between each other.
You made mention of some. Can you give us an example of some of the works you translated and why?
Yes. So I've translated Alice in Wonderland into Swahili. It's called Elisi katika ndani ya nchi ya ajabu. I also translated the Nobel laureate, the most recent African to win the Nobel, Abdurazak Gurna. I've translated his work Paradise as Peponi, and also his most recent work, Theft, into Dhulma, into Swahili. So I translate into Swahili largely, and I do that because I think it's important to have global voices in our languages. But I also think it's important to translate authors who are from where we come from and who write in languages that maybe most in our communities don't have access to. So for example, Gurna, who won the Nobel, writes amazingly in English. But people in my country, Tanzania especially, not many can access English. And so when they can read such work about themselves in their language, it's very different from struggling to read something in a foreign language. And I think I translate because of that. I want people to see themselves in these big global literatures. Yeah.
You are obviously successful in the field of translation in Africa and globally. What do you think makes your work successful?
What makes my work? Well, I take time to choose what I want to translate and to translate. I don't translate anything. I translate works that touch me, that have representation for me. But I also have a great support system. You know, I have, for example, immediately when I translate, I have my family, my parents are academics. They would read the work and tell me, why not this word, why not that kind of turn of phrase, etc. But I also have excellent publishers. I've published with Mkuki na Nyota from Tanzania. They've won the Bristol Award for indigenous language writing. So they know what they're doing, you know? So I think the support system that I have is what really sort of like enables the work to go far. Secondly, I think the elephant in the room is that the person I translate is a Nobel laureate. So he would generally be read, you know, because he can't have won an award and for nothing, you know. So there's an edge to that. And I think the third thing, again, is the lobbying that happens that often people don't talk about. You know, I have to lobby, my publisher has to lobby, the author has to lobby with for example, the Tanzanian government, for them to buy copies of the translations so they can be distributed into libraries, into colleges so that we can be read. So I think all that together is what makes the translation work and successful.
Interesting. So you think, like in Nigeria specifically, states have maybe something to do regarding.
Definitely, definitely. They have to support the authors. They have to support the translators. And you find generally translators translate because they want to. You find that often the translator has another job. They're probably a teacher or a journalist or a student. They do translation on the side. So if you can enable them, allow them to translate and sort of like have funding that allows them to do that, you would have amazing pieces of literatures because people can focus on that. The state has that. I think it's a duty that they have. They need to do that. And secondly, if they can adopt these literatures into schools, because unfortunately that's where the purchasing power is, then it also allows the books to circulate as well. So yes, I would say that.
You also talked about your wish to see Hausa Swahili sitting in the global chart.
Yeah.
How can we achieve that?
And I think that's it. It's like right now we are at the very beginning of this journey. You know, we don't have a single text between African languages. There's nothing between Swahili and Hausa. We all have to use English as the bridge. I think we need to move away from that, so that we're not just translations into or in indigenous languages, but just translation in general, you know, like no longer these sort of like labels that put us in a corner. I think once we shift away from that, then it'll be a bit clearer, but it's a long journey. We need the financial backing. You know what I mean? It's like the cultural backing. There's so much that needs to be done. And it cannot be done with one person. It has to be done by many of us. We all have to want it.
One of the questions somebody asked you inside is the issue of copyright.
Yes.
Hausa translators do face,
Yeah.
especially with European authors.
Yes.
How do you advise we can overcome
So
that?
I think this comes back to the state. I mean, supporting publishing houses, you know, or finding sort of like financial sources to support this, because the Western publisher is not going to give a special price to publish just because they're from Africa or they're from India. You all have to pay the same price to buy rights, right? And so financial backing from the state, that would go a long way.
Finally, why is BUK so important to have this kind of workshop or conversation?
So for me personally, because I have translated Abdurazak Gurna into Swahili, I think BUK is absolutely the best place to start these discussions, because Gurna taught here. Abdurazak Gurna worked at Bayero University between 1980 and I think 1983 before he moved back to England. And so coming to a space that was the first university, the first place he came back to in Africa, because from Zanzibar, when he was 18, he migrated to the UK, lived there, and then he came here sort of like in the 80s. I think having this here, for me, it almost feels like you're paying homage, you know, to somebody who started his journey here. He started his academic journey, writing journey here, you know. So I think that's important. And secondly, I think the management here is extremely supportive. The Vice Chancellor, the directors that we've met, they're extremely supportive of translation. They're aware of the role that Kano and Hausa played historically, and they want to revive this. So I think all these things sort of like put together make this place very important to start these discussions.
Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thanks.